and I know you're journalists. You
Yeah.
cannot make any job of journalism.
No, we're just
Don't
doing talking.
speak with the people
No.
about any time on Gaza, on Jerusalem, no nothing.
That we can use our microphones. And no
But
one-
I'm still like, I'm blown away by the idea that you can't even do journalism because that could spark a war.
Yes. I mean, look, to be fair, they are dealing with Abiy Yemeni.
It is true. And the one thing I don't have on my resume yet is sparking a war. So it is probably Israeli intelligence ensuring that I don't get the opportunity to start the war. What is that? Oh, we're not allowed to record? They said we can record. You can film, but you can't do it. They make up the rules as they go along.
Well, that's one thing Israelis and Palestinians have in common.
About a month ago, I caught up with my big brother who, before October 7, hated Donald Trump and probably disagreed with me on almost every political and social issue. But after seeing how his old allies and the institutions he once loved so much, respected, and absolutely blindly believed in betrayed the truth, now he finally realizes what I've been trying to warn him about the left for years. We decided to vlog our walk and talk through Israel's capital for thetruthAboutTheWar.com to show you what we're actually discussing. So watch, enjoy, and then head over to thetruthAboutTheWar.com to learn more about the most lied about conflict on the planet and to find out how to join me on this exact walk later this year. Where are we?
We are walking into the old city of Jerusalem, entering the Jaffa Gate, Sha'ar Yafo.
Now this is literally probably the most contested piece of real estate on the planet
True indeed.
right now and for a very long time.
And also one of the most ancient cities in the world. I mean, walking through a walled city should tell you everything that you need to know. When walls actually kept you safe, you feel like you're literally walking into history.
You were against Trump's wall, weren't you?
I like old walls, not new walls, but that's not true. These days I'm all for walls of all kinds.
Were you against it?
What,
Did
against?
you hate his wall? And did that position change? It's just
Yes,
a funny
it-
side note.
Well, I think the suspicion that I had about everything coming from Trump, being, a xenophobic or racist kind of attitude, today I think about it very, very differently, realizing all the problems that he's facing the West as a result of free, unvetted migration and how we're, one thing we came to realize, anyone who hasn't woken up 10 months ago, there are monsters in the world. And if you don't want to own up to that fact of the monsters, it's probably because you're trying to suppress the reality of your own monster inside. And on that note, I think we should have a coffee.
From the one place that didn't rip us off in Jerusalem so far. We'll get a shot of him because it's...
I think it's a guy with a white shirt.
It's
a
an
white
Arab
t-shirt.
falafel kebab shawarma, which is decent, but the coffee was really good.
The coffee was really good. Hello,
How you
do
doing, brother?
you remember us? Yes, we'd love a coffee if that's okay. Which coffee do you have? Café Afuch. Kaful.
Shachol, יש לך ice? No ice. Shachol.
The last 24 years I have avoided Jerusalem by and large. Jerusalem represented for me the sort of religion that I grew up with. That's where I spent most of my time when I was religious in the different religious establishments. And so for me, in the last 24 years of visiting Israel, it's actually Tel Aviv held a much greater magnetic pull. This time and not just coming here and making, but actually since October 7th and since, again, I'll keep on talking about those, and I listened to a video yesterday of Ben Shapiro with a guy from, is it Cambridge University, or was one of the English universities, like just a hostile, virulent, vitriolic, the art student, really talking about Jews and Jews as colonials. And all of a sudden, after October 7th, all I wanted to do was to come to Jerusalem, because I wanted to make sure that this is not the fantasy in my own head that we belong here, but actually to see the stones that have existed for 3,000 years under, that this is the city of David. King David created this city 3,000 years ago, and Jews have had a presence in this land for all that time. And the only time that they haven't had a presence on the land, and I think they've had continuously, but even when it was diminished to almost nothing, it wasn't by choice, it was because they were colonized, literally. Right?
So the irony of that
the level of the multiple layers of irony of that. And so therefore, to me, even though it seems so obvious, like how can people be so dumb? How can people be so ignorant, especially coming from universities? You understand, coming from the Arab world and the Muslim world, that you can imagine they don't get an education and they're taught whatever they're taught, and it's like coming from a place of learning, from the highest places of learning, talking like this. It's like, obviously it seems to be that we need to make a video and to talk about, like, in very tangible terms. This is a city that was created by the king of the Jews, the greatest king of the Jews. In fact, all Jewish kings subsequently had to be from the dynasty of David, and it's one of the longest dynasties in world history. The Davidic dynasty lasted at least 1,000 years, right? Even King Herod, even though he questioned whether he was even Jewish, on one side at least claimed to have come from King David. And so I think it's really important, and this is not so much, again, and I want to reiterate that it's not about a God-given land, and it's not about that side of things, because as soon as we enter that world, then we're arguing. You say this, the Jews say this, we're the chosen people, and God gave it to us. The Muslims say we're the God, and go and have a religious war like we've had for most of human history. This is not where this is coming from. This is coming from, and this is again coming back to Zionism. Zionism is simply a nationalism for the Jews, who, if there's anyone has a moral argument for Jews for having a right to be self-determining in their own land, it's the Jews. And it's not my own opinion because I'm Jewish, it's based on the history. There's no people who have been more tortured, killed, and harassed than the Jews in the last. I wish it wasn't the case. And therefore, nationalism, the idea of self-determination, that we should be owners of ourselves and masters of our own destiny in our own homeland, it seems so obvious. But again, we're here to make sure, and to maybe part of this is therapeutic, but also to make the point that this ancient city was an ancient city that we have a connection to this city for at least 3,000 years.
We were talking about it when we left, and you were the most honest guy we met in Jerusalem. Everywhere we went, they say to us, how much is a juice? 10 shekel. And then you go and pay, no, this one's 20 shekel.
Oh. Forgot to mention that part.
But when we came here the other day, we were already...
we didn't even ask how much the coffee was.
Yeah, we didn't ask, and you charged us a normal price.
Less than what we've paid anywhere else with asking.
So I know, some people, they charge a lot.
Inflated, yeah.
A lot.
Yeah.
But everything, but they also lie. That's the part I don't like.
It's good to work with menial prices. Everybody to see. Many people, they come for me. Like how much is a menial, my friend? Take a look, see what we have is good for you.
Yeah.
You're from Australia?
Avi.
Avi, I'm from
Yeah. How you doing?
I have great sympathy for the Palestinian plight of those who lived here, who wanted to continue living here, and maybe, those who left for whatever reason, wanting some sort of compensation, and trying to figure out and giving them as best life as we could. I have great sympathy for that. The problem is that the Palestinian cause has been, entirely led by people who it's not about just giving compensation and a good life to the Palestinians. It's about literally destruction of the Jewish state.
Yep.
That's what October 7th has, if there was any doubt about it before, to me it was a great shock, because I did really believe in the ultimate two-state solution, despite the the repeated peace deals that were turned down, not only turned down, were violently burnt up in literal bombings by Hamas. And one needs to keep on making the point to the pro-Hamasniks as if, while talking about two-state solutions, there is no two-state solution for Hamas. It literally is a one-state solution. We're walking now through the Jewish quarter. Besides these ancient Roman ruins that you have, most of the buildings that we have on top are mostly new. I mean, there are some bits and pieces that you see are old. The reason why that is because when the Jordanians again took control in the 1948 War of Independence, and the Jordanians gained control of Jerusalem, they literally destroyed almost every, they destroyed as much as they could of Jewish relationship to this place. So this argument, they knew the score. They did know it, because otherwise they wouldn't be in such a hurry and with such intensity to try and obliterate as much as possible. Of course, the one thing that they couldn't obliterate is the Western Wall, because that would really compromise the Al-Aqsa. But which in a way we have to be thankful for that, because otherwise I've got no doubt in my mind that the Western Wall would not be surviving if it wasn't part of the structure of the Al-Aqsa. So
now, to put into context for people that don't actually understand, the Western Wall itself is actually not the holiest part. The holiest part for Jews is where Al-Aqsa sits. So.
Well, it's on the inside. Where exactly it is a matter. Yes,
but many Jews will not even go up there because of the holiness.
Not because that's right. Not because it's a Muslim place, a holy place. In fact, Jews are allowed to go into Muslim Muslim holy places and mosques. They wouldn't go up there because in the Jewish tradition you're not allowed to go into the Holy of Holies unless you're the high priest, and only then on Yom Kippur.
So many Jews still hold, so as a safeguard, they don't even go up to that whole complex. But what year was Al-Aqsa actually built?
Islam only came about in the early 7th century AD, right? Yep. We're talking about Jerusalem. King David is 1300 years before that. So, right? So Islam is basically, between us and King David, Islam is about the institution of Islam as a religion, right? Muhammad was literally the halfway point between us and King David. That's how ancient we're talking about. So to say that the Western Wall predates the Al-Aqsa is a bit of there's no comparison in terms of how ancient and how long the Western Wall and the relationship to the temple it is for Jews compared to the Al-Aqsa for the Muslims. Which reminds me
but on that point, I think here we get over here we'll have a good view of it. So people who don't understand the history or the politics of it, what we're seeing in front of us, that's the Western Wall.
That wall is the outer wall of the temple, of the ancient Jewish temple, which was the holiest site in Judaism, which the Romans were the last to destroy and left that, literally it's called the Western Wall because it was the western part of the temple. They left that standing, and the Muslims built a temple within that.
The mosque on top of the holiest Jewish site.
I don't think it was even built in the 7th century.
So the holiest place for Jews, thousands of years later, they built what they consider now the second holiest place for Muslims on top of it.
Correct. And that's uncontroversial. There's no controversy in the history of it, right?
Wow. Good.
You like it? You're meant to be looking at the wall though.
What is the brand of this?
DJI.
Osmo?
Osmo, DJI. All right, we continue. That's the crazy thing. The technology excites people more than the wall these days.
Which reminds me, when I was in Turkey, and I was in the eastern parts, and we were in some place, firstly that they supposedly knew where
on a tour? We're going to Al-Aqsa. We'll be back. We're going to ride to Al-Aqsa on time.
You doing it?
Are you around?
I'm leaving tonight.
Ah.
I'm around in Jerusalem today. Enjoy,
Well,
guys.
we're here today. All right, let's keep going. So remind you.
Yeah, no, it reminded me of a sort of a museum in a mosque in eastern Turkey that had, amongst the different things that they had the sandal of King David.
Really?
They had the sandal of King David, and I was like, I just wanted to. I did ask them. I just wanted to know, for the 1400 years, for the 1600 years between when King David lived to when Islam was instituted and King David was actually someone that all of a sudden became important in Islam, where was this sandal?
Yeah.
And again, it's not to detract, and I was like, we're talking callously, and religion is religion. People have beliefs and they can believe, and as long as you actually have a respect for other people, that doesn't worry me. But I think it's important to set the record straight on the history of it. And again, it comes back to this idea of Jews not belonging to this land. It's like the outrageousness of the claim, the absurdity. The only way one can make such a statement is incredible ignorance or malice or both.
On that note, behind us, what we see is this is the entrance to the Western Wall, and this is a special entrance for tourists into Temple Mount Al-Aqsa, whatever you want to call it, depends who you are.
Yeah.
I don't know how we're going to go filming in there, but we'll. I'll film.
We'll try.
We just got to go through security where they might tell me to turn it off. We're just bloggers, normal bloggers, non-political, just family.
Yeah.
Oh, here we go.
Of course.
You know how it is. Hello. How you doing? Oh, you don't need passport. Oh, you're not allowed microphones in there? Why? For blogging?
Because it's something in journalism or doing?
He's a
Why?
journalist.
No,
He's a journalist.
You're a journalist?
yeah.
No, it's not allowed.
You ruined it.
You have a big camera?
No, just blogging.
Okay, not the phone, please. The microphone.
Not the microphone, but we can blog on there.
Yes.
Okay.
So he was
But
good.
we talk about this after.
All right,
it's
one
not allowed
second.
to talk with anybody over there. No,
No, we're talking
To us.
between
Okay,
us.
not talk with people.
Okay.
About the place, about the, okay?
All right.
All right.
Microphone, just put it inside.
Yeah, no worries. Let me just put this down.
Welcome.
Australia.
Welcome.
Thank you.
He wouldn't, if we weren't that, he wouldn't have given. No, if he wouldn't have given us if we weren't like a journalist allowed.
No, you're allowed to blog, you know. That's why I said to you, we're blogging. Don't worry. You're allowed to blog. Let me just, let's just turn.
I think a microphone's just not allowed full stop.
Yeah. I think it's fine. Just give me that. That has an internal anyways. It just won't be as good. So, how you doing?
First time in Temple Mount?
No, I've been here before.
Which country?
Australia. Did you get the passport? Oh, no, we kept the passport, yeah.
Guys, you need to know Temple Mount open to visitors until
11:30,
11:30.
yeah.
There's a Nekunaim,
You need to leave. Entrance from this gate, exit from another gate.
Yeah.
Temple Mount, you cannot make any kind of prayer, don't touch anything, don't enter,
Yeah.
not the mosque, not the dome. Just from outside, you can look, take a picture, and I know you are journalists, you
Yeah.
cannot make any job of journalism.
No, we're just
Don't
doing talking.
speak with the people
No.
about any time, on Gaza, on
Nothing.
Jerusalem, no nothing.
Yeah.
Just both take a picture,
Yeah.
finish the visit.
Thank you.
Thank you. Have a good day.
The soldiers that are there, they were killed on Temple Mount. The police on the police here.
Now, where were they killed?
For 5 years.
In-
Not 5.
7 years.
On Temple Mount.
Inside, yes.
What happened there?
The murder.
Like how were they murdered?
Yeah, shot.
Oh, sure. In Temple Mount. How did somebody get in with a gun when?
Not from here, from
The other side, there's no.
Muslims,
Oh.
Yes.
All right. Thank you. So sorry for the sound quality. It's probably dropped a bit, but
Again, this
you've got to
is
understand
also-
how sensitive it is.
How sensitive? This is Jewish control of an Arab holy site and taking all the greatest precautions not to in any way offend them. That's
Or
why
antagonise or anything.
This is we don't want to be, they don't want
As Jews, we're going to the holiest place for Jews, and we're being told. See, if you go to this side, which is the Jewish Western Wall. You're right. You do walk up there, but the Jewish. If you walk up this side, you have no problem in filming. But going here as Jews to the holiest place, we're told, take the microphones off, and if you're working, that's why I was saying don't tell them we're journalists, tell them we're bloggers, because if you're working as journalists, they're like freaking out.
Yeah,
no journalism allowed here. Right. Not because they're happy to talk, but it's because that might antagonize this is such a hot place that in seconds it can flip from one little thing that's taken the wrong way. So if I ask the wrong question to the wrong Arab, that could spark a riot, which inevitably could start a regional war. And that's not just hyperbole, that happens here. This path, Ariel Sharon walked up this, and that started a massive war.
Yes. And look, in the past I would have been, again, why antagonize? But today, and this is something that, again, I've come to the realization, we need to acknowledge what we're dealing with over here, and this sort of fundamentalism, and on both sides I despise the fundamentalism, but there is no doubt in my mind that it's a 99% compared to a 1% ratio of fundamentalism that we're dealing with over here.
So what we're about to walk through, just so you know, is so you're going to have now the Jordanian.
This is the religious police.
This is the Jordanian religious police. You've never been here.
I've never been here, and of course, for the first many years of my life, this was something that would have been unheard of. Not even part of my consciousness of coming here. This is the holiest place. We don't go up here into the Temple Mount, but it is it's like a world in its own. It's actually beautiful. It's massive.
Like with us, they're not too worried, but sometimes the settler stuff can come up.
Right.
And that's why they tell us you're not allowed to make prayers. You're not allowed to, as a Jew, you're not allowed to come to the holiest place for Jews and pray. Yeah. Because that will spark a war. Yeah. That will spark a war. Maybe asking the wrong questions could spark a war, but could spark a war. That would spark a war. Is a Jew coming here and praying. So the religious Jews, like they've come, the police, they have to walk together with the police, and then they've got cameras there because that is all.
In case anything that happens.
But no, the cameras there are, I think, if the Israelis break the rules so that they can charge them.
Right.
It's not.
Right. Right.
So like when people talk about like them coming up there, like some of them probably do come up here to antagonize but
that's why they've got cameras to make sure that the antagonizing will be able to then be
prosecuted in court, in an Israeli court.
Yes.
They will prosecute here. So we flip around, you'll see. See, look, he's got a 360 camera on the back. Look at that. It's insane.
And how many coppers does it require? 1, 2, 3.
It's almost 1 to 1.
6, 1 to. Wow.
Nowhere else here do you see that. Like for somebody of a different religion to be able to come.
And this gets to the heart of the matter. Liberalism has not come to Islam and to the Arab and Muslim world, and that is the crux of the issue that we're facing today. Islam has simply not gone through the same process of modernity and liberalism. The fact of that you might have your sacred beliefs, but they're your beliefs, and you can't impose that on anyone else. And in a way, they've come that's to me why the Islamists and the Western students are not only the strangest bedfellows. It goes to show that the Western students who are in bed with them are not liberal anymore. They call themselves progressives, as much, but that's just a good marketing technique more than anything else.
So, how does it feel coming up here? You're going to see the Dome of the Rock in a second.
Well, this is incredible. Like in the Talmud, it describes about the temple and the size, and I thought it was all a bit of an exaggeration.
Yeah.
And then you come into here and you see the absolute immensity of the space. Forget about the Al-Aqsa for a second. Just in terms of the courtyard of the temple, this was all part of the courtyard of the temple. It's absolutely immense. You probably have it's probably 400 meters wide, maybe even. Yeah.
Technically, though, I know that that is by most people considered Al-Aqsa, but that's not actually the Al-Aqsa Mosque. I think it's this one, which is nowhere near as grand or nobody takes photos in front of that. Everybody takes photos in front of that because it's got a gold dome. But I think that's actually the holier side for Muslims. I think so.
Right.
Okay, we'll walk up. Now, it's interesting. I don't know how this fits in, but in the last couple of days, they tried to assassinate Trump.
Yes.
I feel like there's got to be some connection. I've seen online where some, I've to be fair, seen it on the right. The left I've seen have tried to, they've almost done the Jan 6 thing where they're, like what they've claimed about the right when it comes to Jan 6, they've applied that to this.
Yeah.
The conspiracy theories coming from the left.
Look,
with regards to that, it does seem
to be fair to them, it is almost so perfect that you can just imagine Trump as the ultimate, TV.
I'll be honest, I thought that at first.
I think we all feel that at first, and it's like, he's just so perfect. Maybe there's a sign that God is real, and God favors Trump.
But on the right side, on the other side, the conspiracy is that I don't know how they got to it because you've got to apply some mental gymnastics.
Yes.
That somehow Mossad was responsible. Why would they kill Trump? He's the one guy that's good for Jews.
Yeah.
And as well.
No, so I do think, that ties into what we spoke about last time about, when you asked me about what I think about Trump and Biden, who would I vote for, and I said then that I honestly see the threat to civilization is coming from the left. If we needed any proof, it just couldn't have come at a more obvious time. That what happens in the between our two videos is you have a fanatical leftist who goes and who in desperation, they see the writing on the wall. They see that, they see that that there's no hope for Biden winning, and so like the only way to take Trump out is to assassinate him, and so you really do see anyone, and also in the last 40 years, well, who are the two presidents who were shot by left wingers and extreme left on Republican presidents. It says everything that we need to, the whole narrative that it's the right that is a threat, that is a violent threat, is actually absurd when you apply it to the reality on the ground, even when you're looking at presidents.
They're obviously from the camp that believe you can come here or you should come here to make them.
They might actually think of themselves from the priestly class, and
But if they start praying here, they'll get immediately arrested and dragged out of here before
anyone else sees them.
Because of the Jordanian. So it's a crazy concept that here, almost the enemy is in control. So the religious control here, I'm surprised they haven't walked up to us yet.
I mean, the idea that Jews should be in control of the holy places in the West Bank, forget about anything else, where we were in control and gave back as part of Oslo, is something that no one would even suggest that should be the case, except the fantasy of a few like extreme right wingers. And in fact, what happens as soon as Israel left those places were actually desecrated. The tomb of Joseph's tomb and other places.
So how do you feel about that? Has that shifted? Has that shifted for you prior October 7, after October 7? So your view on, for example, the holy places, like what you just mentioned. So here, this is the holy place for Muslims, and Jews, even though it is the holiest place for Jews facilitate everything to ensure that it remains holy for Muslims, even allowing the Muslims themselves to have full control of it. The holy places for Jews, most of them are in the West Bank.
In Judea and Samaria, because that's where Judah, the tribe of Judah and Benjamin, which was the capital
and so you framed it a second ago going, except for some crazy right-wingers that feel like they should have control of those holy sites. Has that shifted, or do you still believe I don't care about that side of it because you don't have that religious connection?
Well, it's not. I'm much more sentimental than religious in that sense. In fact, I'm very anti-religious in a certain way. Like I see religion as being the source of so much bigotry and narrow-mindedness and hostility of one people to the other. I'm coming from a liberalism point of view. Live and let live, and so even the reason why I'm making the point over here for us to understand.
Let's get the Al-Aqsa in the back so it looks good.
is in terms of the narrative that people are saying. You know, the idea that the Jews are the illiberal ones, are the fascists in this equation, is absurd. That's the point I'm trying to make. Not that I'm suggesting that we should in any way go and fight for. Sure, if it was easy and to be able to hold on to Joseph's tomb, not because of a holy side, but because of sentimental thing. I'm a sucker for sentimentality, for something that is thousands of years old and connection to my people and connection. The truth is, even if it was connection to other, you know, I go and see old ruins of anyone because I think that there's value in that. But I don't for one second think that because it's a holy site that therefore we should be given, and certainly not to create any issue out of it and go to war on it or even create any scandal from it. But I just want to point that out because it's so important to see the lack of the asymmetry in the argument in between the Israelis and the Palestinians. That over here, the Israelis are really coming from a liberal point of view. Which other people would give the enemy? Go to Turkey, one of the greatest anti-Israel regimes. Can you imagine them seeding any control to the separatist Kurds? To control over their own holy places. It's absurd that you get shot just talking the name. And here you have Israel in the holiest place, giving absolute control to the point that we are like second-class citizens here. We are under the control of the rule, and I'm happy to subjugate myself. But don't go and then tell me that I'm a fascist. That's the part that I'm rejecting. It's Israel bending itself over backwards to the sensitivities of the people that live here, and that this is important for them, and we don't demand the same thing of them.
Look at it.
It's immense.
It's grand.
It's absolutely immense.
So here we are, we've snuck the microphones in because it's just too much of a great opportunity to have that background and talk about what we're doing here. But it's how you doing? What is that? Oh, we're not allowed to record? They said we can record. No recording. Just photo. We've been just holding. Let's go. But you see that's... Hold on, I'll get him in the background. That's the Jordanian religious police. They just banned us from recording. They said no recording, just photos.
What's their name? Is like WAQF,
yeah.
the Wakaf, I think?
Yeah. So the only reason why I'm not going to fight with that guy over the recording here is because I know we were told by the Israeli police that we're allowed to record, we're not allowed to use mics. Yeah. Now I will fight with him because at least I can refer to the Israeli police, who there is
hierarchy.
There is a sort of hierarchy here that they have full control. So I think they will say he's right if he says you're not allowed to film here. Right. But whatever, at least I'm following. But here we're breaking everyone's rules on the brink of war. We don't want. So I'm not gonna test my luck. We'll do the talk on the side that Jews are allowed to be on the Jewish side. But let's just walk away from him. Look, I was thinking we've kind of set up right in the middle.
You got some good shots.
Yeah, it was good. And you guys get to see how
the reality. The reality. We're not in anyone's way. We're just doing a talk when there's nothing insensitive or that we're saying or doing. It's really paying respect, and I find this building absolutely astounding. Like in terms of grandeur.
They called the president made from there, but I forgot what it's actually called. Yeah. And it is standing almost just above the Western Wall. And when you talk about not antagonizing, it's almost like the entire existence of this holy site for Muslims and the placement of their call to prayer and everything is to antagonize the Jews.
So to put it in perspective, the people who would be the Jews who would be offended by that, we would call them extreme right-wing fanatics who no one has any time for. But the common person who would get antagonized by you having a camera and
he's telling me I'm not allowed to film it. Stop. So he just stopped us again, told me I can't talk. But let's go. He's like, you can film, but you can't talk. They make up the rules as they go along.
Well, that's one thing Israelis and Palestinians have in common.
All right, so we're going to head over back down to the Western Wall where we can put our microphones on and we're free.
And we can be free
to be Jews. When you see the footage Oh, yeah, it is here. When you see the footage of the riots within the mosque, it's in here, not in there. If you look at I'll flip the camera, you can see it. It's literally, that's the rooms that you see, and that's the door. That's where they throw the rocks. That's where they fire weapons. Like that's where the riots happen from within that mosque, not Al-Aqsa, not the one that on the other.
They attacked the Israeli
Police here, yeah. And then they get the footage of the Israelis going into the mosque. But you can see it's very peaceful and calm until it's not.
Yes.
All it takes is one journalist
with talking into a microphone,
or a Jew praying here on the holiest site for Jews.
Yeah.
Where was the exit? It was there. We're marked up again.
Now that we're marked up and we can talk.
And we've just walked out.
It strikes me, so many things struck me when we went in there, but firstly, taking off the shoes before walking into the temple. Where do you think that comes from? Judaism. In the temple, you weren't allowed to wear shoes, you had to walk barefoot. In fact, the priests were known as very unhealthy people because Jerusalem gets very cold in winter. They walked around barefoot on marble floors, and all they did was eat meat all day. You know, they weren't the healthiest people. It struck me that this is, you know, so you got that component of it. The praying, the way the Muslims pray, is the bowing down. That's the way the Jews in the temple did. The story of, like, what's the Al-Aqsa famous for? That's supposedly where what happened? Where Muhammad the Prophet flew to heaven or wherever. That's a story from the Torah. That's a story from the Bible. Elijah the Prophet, Eliyahu, supposedly didn't die, and also, you know, so sort of flew to heaven. Again, the point of all these things is not to talk about. It's really to talk. Because I guess it comes into an argument about, you know, belonging to this place, and I don't have a problem saying, you know, like hummus, you know, everyone has their own version of it. It doesn't offend me that someone should take a Jewish story and make it their own and make it a pillar of their own. But then they're going to fucking tell me that we belong and you don't belong. Like, so it's killing out. It's taking everything from the original owner and then telling him you're a stranger.
It's the ultimate source of gaslighting, and something I just noticed just standing here. If you see through this entrance, in which Muslims can go through, not Jews and not tourists, is they can just go right through that gate with no metal detectors, no anything, as not to offend them. Correct. As opposed to what we had to do, which was we had to go through a metal detector.
And when you asked the guy, how did they get guns to kill those two Jewish Israeli cops? They came through here. They didn't have any metal detectors.
And I remember there was a period where they tried to put up metal detectors here for the safety of everyone here, and it created riots in itself.
Yes. But again, until you see it and experience it, it's mind-blowing. It really is mind-blowing, the double standards and the people who don't know anything in the wider world and just, you know, going with a banner, from the river to the sea. Sure, we should all be under the waqf, you know, everywhere, and basically, and that's what it is. Subjugate yourself. I don't want to subjugate myself to anything. I'm Jewish, but I don't follow my own rules. I make up my own. I don't make up. I take what works and what adds meaning to my life and spirituality to my life, and I get rid of the rest. Imagine if I had the Sanhedrin of 2,000 years ago telling me what to do. That's the difference. Like, we also had the waqf, you know, back in the day. Thankfully, we got rid of them. 2,000. The Romans helped us get rid of them 2,000 years ago. You know, when they destroyed them and the temple. But that's what it comes down to. I'm all for any sort of religion. Sure, practice whatever you want, and real religion should lead you to a spiritual place, and not to one to riots, and not one to, you know, to be an open, generous, compassionate human being. That's what religion should lead you to.
There you go. To be continued. Come, we'll go here. Come.
Probably the magnet.
There, microphone. They want us to take the mics off here, even to go on the Western Wall side.
But no, it's security for the sake of security. That's fine.
That's fine. Okay.
From Sydney.
Melbourne. Are you seeing us in it? Yeah. Yeah.
See, no one's coming here and bothering us for...
Yeah. So there's no problem with filming.
No
here.
problem with filming, no problem with talking. We can say whatever we
All right, let's
want.
walk down to the actual wall.
Yeah.
Prior to October 7,
To me,
how would you have felt walking to this wall?
it didn't really mean anything to me. Like, as in, again, not more any more than the sentimentality of something gold and connection to that. Writing papers on the walls and you know, praying at it as if I don't have a belief in that sort in a God like that, so it doesn't really mean anything. Today, now the Western Wall means much more to me as the primary signature piece of like physical proof of our relationship to the land that goes back 3,000 years, literally. Now, even though the historians amongst you will say it's only 2,000 years old because Herod only, you know, sort of created the temple in the second temple in its current form a bit more than 2,000 years, maybe this wall. Doesn't matter. The point is that on the excavations that are happening, when you go into the left, the excavations show, you know, as they dig deeper, they're just getting layer and layer. You know, another 100 years, another 1,000 years as they dig deeper and discover the relationship of Jews to the land. The Romans, 2,000 years ago, remember about the time of Jesus, in the year 70, they laid siege to Jerusalem and conquered Jerusalem and destroyed the temple, and the last wall that was remaining, the Western Wall, was the last piece of wall remaining from the temple. And to add salt to injury, and to really, after they killed most of the people, sent the rest into exile and fleeing into all sorts of places, they renamed Israel Palestine, because until then it was known as either Judah, the kingdom of Judah, or the kingdom of Israel. That's the way it was known in biblical times, right? They named it Palestina in order to, and it was reminiscent of the Philistines.
Which
of course, the Philistines were people that had nothing to do with this region. They were probably, where were the origins of, I think they might have even been sort of Greek. They were the greatest enemies. In the Bible, who were the Jews, the ancient Jews, King Saul and King David, who were they constantly fighting against? It was the Philistines, right? And so who did the Romans, when they destroyed the temple and the city of Jerusalem and conquered, who did they want to name the city, the city and the state after? The worst enemies of the Jewish people, you know, from you know, the last 1,000 years. So Palestine was really a name that the Romans, the destroyers, the greatest colonizers of the Jewish people, named the land, and that was really to try and entirely eradicate the memory of Jews to this land. Yes.
What are the notes in the wall here?
Notes in the walls is, you know, people's prayers and, you know, I don't know, apparently God became literate in the last few hundred years.
So that's a new thing, a custom that Jews have made to write a letter and put it in the wall.
That's right, and it would be interesting to research where this custom began, but it's certainly, you know, yes, it's probably something that happened in the Middle Ages. Although writing onto paper would have been something that would have been an expensive exercise then, so which makes it certainly became a widespread phenomenon much more recently.
If the left got what they want now in the current climate, do you think us standing here now will still be possible?
Again, we can only judge based on rhetoric and on historical precedent. As we said, Jordanians ruled this land for 19 years. Literally, from 1948 to 1967, the land on which we are standing right now was in Jordanian hands. Jews were not allowed to come into this land. We're not allowed to come and stand over the celebration. That's why it's such an iconic image of the soldiers, of the paratroopers who came and conquered, you know, Jerusalem as part of the Six-Day War, which incidentally one of the three people in that iconic photo just died in the last few weeks, the age of 81. Why it was such a moving experience was because this was again after Jews have come back into their ancient homeland. They still were denied access to the most pivotal, the holiest of sites that symbolized their connection to this land. And so if we go, and the Arab and Islamic rhetoric of the last 50, 60 years has not become more soft, has not become softer, has become much more radicalized. And so you can imagine, you literally have most Arabs growing up and most Muslims growing up thinking that Jews don't belong in this land and that we are just a bunch of Westerners here, me and you, Westerners, right? Coming from Europe and claiming a place for themselves in an Arab-owned land. I don't think we would. Certainly, I don't think any reasonable person should have any reason to suppose that we would have the freedoms, and certainly not the freedoms that not in anything like what we had up there, where Muslims basically run the place.
Isn't it funny though? Often the conversation, especially online, when detractors of Israel want to put down this state, and often they're anti-Semites, whether it's far left, far right, they both make the same argument that Israel, first is a racist state, but also mistreat the Ethiopians. And I think historically even the Yemen Jews were mistreated by the government. But they tried to use the plight of, and I have many Ethiopian friends from the army, they tried to use the plight of the Ethiopian Jews that are loved in the country to make the claim that Israel is such a racist apartheid state where not everyone, only white Jews from Eastern Europe have all the power and have all the freedoms, where it's just not true. In fact, the white European Jews are the minority here. Yes. They do hold a lot of power within government, but they are
but not anymore. Historically, they used to.
In the beginning, but now it is like the only place in the world where I can think diversity is their strength.
You look around, look how many bar mitzvahs are happening of every denomination. You've got.
Yeah, so these are literally bar mitzvahs this morning of all different Jews from all different backgrounds. I think this state is really bad at being racist.
Yeah.
It's been a fun-filled day.
Experience.
And we got to see both sides.
Yes.
I think, one second, do not steal a kippah from the kotel, because I don't know whether you're religious or not, that sounds like bad luck. So I'm going to return it. Evidence. But I think hopefully the viewer got a bit of a sense of what it's really like here, instead of just believing the media and the so-called academics that pretend to care about truth and history. And
they care about their paychecks from Qatar is what I've come to learn since October 7th.
Who's they?
The academics in Columbia universities and their brethren in the other bullshit elite, so-called elite.
I'm so happy to hear you say that, because I know we've for years discussed that, and you didn't believe the idea that they could have been corrupted by outside influences, and especially money.
Well, because
it's
true, because yes, it's true. My experience of university was one that I was able to lap up all the greatest thinkers that the Western civilization primarily has produced. And universities were the hallmark of that, and the place of the seat of learning, and the idea that it should be corrupted on such a scale, it was absurdity, even if there's going to be individuals or even individuals' institutions. But now to see that it is absolutely the case in such mass scale, and you see the mechanisms of it, the sort of the cancel culture, and the second you step out of line and you don't put, it goes against, and the dogma of it all. The greatest thing that I discovered from the philosophy, when I'll never forget John Stuart Mill, when he talks about, even let's just say the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. Let's just say it's possible to do that. If it comes to you via dogma, it's a dead truth, it's worthless. And that's all that there is to say about dogma. And today, the left inhabits the world of dogma more than any other. And that's why I've come to question everything that comes, because when you come to realize that something's so obvious that they can get it so wrong, and the dogma that's involved in coming to that conclusion, it's like, well, how do I have faith in anything that they have to say about it? And therefore, I do think In Judaism, in Jewish law, there's a concept of shviratan zuhi takanatan. Their breaking is their only a rectification. The path to rectifying anything is an absolute abolition. It's almost like we need to start again, because those institutions are entirely compromised. And you see it with, and some of them are even Jews who talk. Norman Finkelstein is, he needs to shrink, there's no question about it, but he's a Jew who talks about what we're experiencing here as some sort of, we're part of the Nazi concentration camp guards. That's who we are.
Who could have thought Jews could be corrupted by money? No.
Oh, good. Now it
On that
turns
note,
out
we're
that Jews
just-
are anti-Semites. Nice.
Cut.
If you enjoyed this vlog, make sure to like, comment, but most importantly, share it far and wide. Then head over to thetruthaboutthewar.com to learn more about the most lied about conflict on the planet and to find out how you can join me on this exact walk later this year. Thetruthaboutthewar.com. You can also chip in to help fund our reporting that goes against the mainstream narrative. Thetruthaboutthewar.com.